Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Tuesday night with Lit Podcast. I'm just excited right now. So I'm like, my brain's like going 100 miles an hour. So forgive me, but welcome to Lit Podcast Live Tuesday Night Tea. I'm here. We have a very special guest. I know everybody's special to me, so he's still special too. Um, some housekeeping things, just real quick. If you are live with us, if you on Facebook anyway, please allow StreamYard to um, give them permission to see your name so that you can leave a comment and we can see who you are. But I am so excited about our guest. We got somebody on right now. Let's see. I don't know who you are, but hello. Oh, hey, Tarina. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Um, I can see our guest back there smiling. So I'm gonna just since Tarina, you're on, I'm ready. You guys, you don't want to miss this episode. If you know a man, you have a man, you got a man person in your life, this is gonna be some good information, and we're just trying to create a safe space. So, without further ado, I am going to bring on our very special guest all the way from Columbus, Georgia, LaGrange College. We have Dr. Justin Muller. Woo! I need one of them like but I am so excited. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna read y'all his bio, okay, y'all, because this man is special. Um, so we have he's my friend's husband, so I used to work with his wife, Christy, and we're still really good friends. And so I just appreciate Justin and everything that he's doing, y'all. Like for real. If you get a chance, you're gonna have to catch a webinar or any type of speaking engagement that he does because he's excellent. So anyway, without further ado, Mr. Dr. Justin C. Muller is an assistant professor at LaGrange College, Georgia, in the clinical mental health counseling program. Dr. Muller is a licensed marriage and family therapist in Georgia. Dr. Muller graduated from the University of South Carolina in 2016 with his doctorate degree in counselor education and supervision. He received his master's degree in marriage and family therapy from Valdosta State University in 2013. Dr. Muller's research interests include systemic approaches to providing therapeutic services to African American at risk youths, facilitating racial dialogues and discussions, and the impact of doctoral study on doctoral student relationships. When he's not working, Dr. Muller enjoys spending time with his family and friends. Dr. Muller is a major sports fan and follows the NBA, NFL, and each of the University of South Carolina athletic teams closely. Dr. Muller's favorite musical artist is, wait for it, Lil Wayne. Dr. Muller is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. So, y'all, we got a whole cultural like I gotta be PC, but we have Dr. Muller with us, and I am just so excited, and he's wearing my favorite color, blue. So so can I call you Justin? I don't want to, I'm
Oh,
so used to Chrissy with her name for you, but I'm like, I can't. But I can call you Dr. Muller. It's no problem. Give you
well, no, Justin is fine, and thank you, Juana, for the wonderful introduction. I'm very excited to be here this evening.
well, Justin. First, let me just ask you because I know you have your doctorate, and for people that don't understand what his doctorate is in is counselor supervision and education. That means he teach people like me, counselors, how to be counselors, and does the supervision and make sure that we're out here doing ethical, correct things for you, So his job is super important in our field, and he's also his first degree and his master's degree is marriage and family therapist. So first, I want to just ask you, why was mental health important for you? As a I don't do you go by a black man, African American? I don't want
Black
to say.
man, proud to be black man.
Yes.
Right.
So, as a black male, you know, was well, just tell me, why was mental health important for you as an individual?
Certainly. So for me, when I was coming up, one of the things that folks would say about me was that I was a good listener. Like I like listening to people's problems, listening to folks' concerns. And it was later in undergrad. I actually have my undergraduate degree is actually in accounting. And so it was later in the game, my junior year in college, where I had some really good mentors that shared with me that you can go to graduate school for something different than you got your undergraduate degree in. And again, going back to folks telling me that I was a good listener, I just decided to start looking up careers in helping professions. And I was blessed with a wonderful psychology professor who opened my eyes to the field of marriage and family therapy. And from that moment, my senior year in undergrad, I developed this sort of dream to wanting to go out and serve others and listening to stories and problems and concerns. Um, and since then, I've been listening to concerns and issues and working with folks individual, working with families, working with couples for the past 10 years now. And so that's kind of how it all started, just wanting to listen to people's problems and wanting to help folks.
Yeah, I love it. And just because I think, I don't know, it's not a I think, you are a rare breed. Y'all are I'm so serious because one, there's not very many male therapists. Um and then to have a black one, this like a diamond in the rough, So this is like an awesome thing to see you. And then, all the your interests, your special interests are for, for black and brown community people, and especially the youth. That's what I watched was your it was your webinar. It was, well, I guess it's technically a webinar. I don't know. It was for CE
Right,
credits, when you talked about the youth and how we have to, as therapists, because not all people that are other races know how, what our real issues are as black
yeah,
people. And so when you were talking about, um I want to ask you if you can give that like case scenario, if you don't mind. Like, I mean, if you remember, I don't know. I mean, it's a typical case scenario anyway that, I mean, many of us experience. But I mean, it didn't have to be like long, but just like a brief, if you don't mind, just so people can kind of know what I'm talking about. And just real
right.
quick, I had to acknowledge you folks. Marquita, she she's a friend of mine in a coaching group. She said, "Hey, Juana, we both threw our fists up at the same time, like we both." And my friend Michelle, she's saying, "Good evening, Juana and Black Man."
I
So
saw that. Hey, that's real, man.
right, right.
Hey,
I'm
I'm
just
with that.
like,
I'm with that.
but anyway, so just a real quick like synopsis of what kind of, especially our black males, like what kind of, this is men's mental health and men's month. So just like a synopsis of like like your case study.
Right. And so the biggest thing is we as black men need a place to be able to share our stories. Most of the times we are socialized to keep things within. And so we're taught things like men don't express emotions, men don't talk about the issues and concerns. We're told to be strong and just kind of not deal with it, kind of suppress whatever those particular feelings are. And so for me, one of my responsibilities as a black male, and I think it should be all responsibilities of black counselors, is to encourage and advocate for, rather it's black youth, K through 12 youth, if it's young adults, if it's middle-aged adults, older adults, to males to be able to talk about issues and concerns because we all have them. And, as opposed to looking for negative coping mechanisms. And so there could be things such as so many different vices or issues and concerns we could go to that are separate than meeting with someone and talking about challenges and issues. And it sounds simple, but it's so true. It really does take strength. It takes a stronger person to say, hey, I got this issue or concern and I want to do something different about it, as opposed to the person that says, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go focus my attention on something else. And so for me, rather than working with teenagers at the Department of Juvenile Justice, I had a chance to work with kids on probation at DJJ, really good kids. It was a space of making poor decisions and also having been in an environment that put them in positions to make poor decisions, or working with young adults and sort of helping them navigate that transition to adulthood, or working with older adults who are trying to or dealing with some of the same challenges in the generations that are previous to them, that are younger than them. So it's imperative that we have a space to be able to talk about those things. So the presentation that, and thank you for coming to it a couple months ago, was highlighting all of the needs of at-risk teams, and like what would happen if we had a team who was able to go to counseling and was able to explore trauma. We all have a trauma history, but again, oftentimes the low person on the totem pole when it comes to expressing these issues and concerns is the black male. And so we need to have a space where we can come in and talk about issues. We need more black counselors like yourself, Juana, where folks can come in and have conversations with people that look like them, that can say,
Mhm.
hey, it's okay and it's cool, and taking the stigma away from coming to counseling. I think counseling is sort of oftentimes when it's talked about something that only white people go to or accepted in the white community, as opposed to it can be something that anyone can benefit to. And that's how I always kind of kick it to folks when we're having a conversation about counseling. It really starts with just having a conversation with someone. And the hope is you'll go to a counselor who will understand your experiences. Not that they're going to have the same experiences, but they'll have an understanding of it and then be able to help you process a few things.
Yeah, that's you hit on a whole bunch of stuff, but the one thing that's really standing out to me right now too is like how you were talking about um you know just the strength, like because people think like, oh, I ain't going to counseling because I ain't weak like that, but it really does take a strong person to go. And unfortunately throughout, like, I mean, I've been black my whole life, so throughout our culture, that's the kind of stuff we're taught is that's not for us, that's for white people.
Right,
But I know that it comes from slave mentality, that's it people nowadays are like, oh, slavery's over and all of that kind of thing. But enslaved people, that was survival. Like, you better not show any emotion, you better not act like you care about somebody because they're going to separate us,
right,
and just all the different types of things that we've been indoctrinated with as a people, as a culture, so um I really want whoever is listening to know and truly understand that getting professional help is not just for white people, it's not just for rich people. There's resources available for every class of person. If you have no money, zero funds, you can still get professional help. And also just that it makes you, that's where the strength comes in, being vulnerable and wanting to go out and seek that treatment is makes you a better person, makes
yes,
you a better family member, a better worker. It's a whole instead of like you struggling and stressing and suppressing parts of you. So
right,
I appreciate you identifying that, especially. I know also, like in your case study, you were talking about like a particular type of teen, right? A youth that we would have is like they're doing really good in school, good student, great student, and all of that. And different life circumstances at home cause different problems for
right.
them. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Right. To piggyback on what you were just alluding to about that strength, again, these stories are oftentimes not shared because it's looked down upon, as you were just kind of alluding to. Um, I've worked with a lot of young men who are in the scenario that I had for that webinar, where very bright student, in some cases, students who are top of their class, but there are the other reasons, there are other factors why they are experiencing challenges or issues. And so for me, I look at it from a lens of it all starts in the home. And so when I was coming up, me and my family experienced grief and loss at an early age. And when I think back on my life, if it wasn't for having both of my parents there to support me during that time of grief for us, I don't know if I'm having this conversation with you today, in that sort of space. And
Mm-hmm.
meaning that my folks were and are still there and always still caring for me, things of that sort. And I say that to say that that's not always the case with young men. Unfortunately, there's too many young men that are living in homes where there's only one parent that's there, and unfortunately, a lot of those times it's the mom that's there and the dad is nowhere to be found, or kind of comes in and out, or um, is present, but is present for another family. It's not involved in that particular child's family, that child's life, and that sort of thing. And that's hard. And that's confusing for kids, and that's a lot of challenges that can come from just that space. Also, families where there is abuse taking place, where you have one or both parents that are being abusive to that child. Um, Also, families where there are socioeconomic factors that are playing a role in why there are challenges. Kids who might be going to sleep and not having much to eat, or also in a space where they're living in a community where violence is taking place, where the image is not the best. And so all those particular things may play a role in sort of um, maintaining or bringing up challenges for youth. Now, that doesn't mean that certainly if you grow up in a home, in a single parent home, that you are destined to have challenges. There are endless number of homes where Black teens grew up with a single parent, a hardworking single mother, and that person went on to be outstanding. So that's certainly not to put down or to say that that's just because someone's in a challenging circumstance, they can't overcome that, just like SES concerns. Sometimes that's the driving force to be successful. It's more or less what I'm suggesting is many of our Black teens have to deal and manage with those other sort of challenges. And I oftentimes think sometimes the success between two students who one student had both students are very bright 4.0 students, the difference between one of them succeeding may just be what goes on at home, what's on in that particular environment, which is why I think it's imperative for parents, and we have parents here listening, the importance of setting up a home, setting up an environment, and trying to help our kids go through life. So I'm always a person that never looks to like things like television or media and other areas to sort of raise kids. There's this conversation about like what's on television and what's appropriate and not. For me, the thought is the kids should be most influenced by the parents at home. That's kind of my sort of thoughts when it comes to that. And so we need parents to stick up to have those pieces. But there are so many cases where all those factors that we were just talking about play a role in that child not being able to become, or it being much more difficult for them to be successful, as opposed to a kid who lives in a privileged neighborhood, who doesn't experience X, Y, and Z, who may not even know about challenges that other kids their same age may be experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so sad. Like it's just because you can, like you said, like something can happen to the family. Just a tragic loss. Like maybe the child does have two parents, and something the dad dies, get killed, something happens to the dad. And not necessarily divorce, but just something happens tragic to him. And now this I'm just thinking like an older male child having to assume responsibility where he might have been a straight A student, but now he has to go to work, help
Right,
his mom pay some bills, do some things like that, where it takes him away from his studies, where he has to focus on more of being a man already, rather
right,
than just being a kid, being able to play football or basketball or, whatever sport to at school or just be in his academics. And
right,
it's so sad. Because I know people like that. Like I've the same as you, like mentored and counseled with children that were in the system, and it's not their fault they're in the system. They get caught up just because of the life circumstances, or trauma happens, and
right.
then they get labeled, which
Yes,
is a and that label kind of just follows them.
right.
um
And I can say, Juan, is to follow up with that point, what you're alluding to is a common example of parentification. And so when you
Mm,
talk about like parents, and unfortunately, it's you see this common in single parent homes where there's, let's say, for instance, the father's not there; it's just the mother and the son. Parentification is this idea where a parent will project onto their child adult-like responsibilities that they are not capable of taking on because of their age. And so what I'm meaning by that is you have a 10-year-old, and because that parent has so many responsibilities themselves, they may try to project for seeking assistance from that child who's 10. I need you to, even though you're 10, I need you to act like you're 16 or 17. And we know developmentally they're not ready to take on those roles and responsibilities. And so rather it's conscious or in other cases unconscious, that child is kind of put into a space where there's identity issues that may come up. Like, again, I'm expecting to be 16, but I'm only 12. I'm only 10 years old. That may cause, like you pointed out brilliantly, a child may start neglecting their school responsibilities. A child may have to work earlier than they're needing to work and contribute to the finances of the family. Like all those things can potentially cause confusing messages to that child and lead to power struggles between parents and that single child, that to that child who's in a single parent home. And then that trickles into school because you have a child who says, well, at home I'm expected to be adult, and now I'm at school, I'm not going to allow a teacher to disrespect me because I'm an adult. So I'm 16 and I'm 14 years old and I'm the man of my home. I'm not going to come to school and let a teacher kind of talk down to me, which is something that I think for many kids, respect is the biggest sort of thing that they're looking for. I need folks to feel and showcase respect to me, as opposed to talking down to me. And so I appreciate you bringing that sort of space up because I think that that's the case in many homes.
yeah. Yeah, this I'm looking real quick at well, let me, before I do that, I want to talk to you more about like the identity. Like, with men, with how you said they start to develop, well, potentially develop an identity, the identity issues, right? Um but then how, like, as they grow into being a man, how does that identity issue crisis, um how does that look in a, from
Right.
a teenager to the man?
Right. Sometimes a person can go their entire life looking for their identity. This is where images and surroundings can play a role. Tupac's "Dear Mama" comes to mind, where he says, "They say I'm wrong and I'm heartless, but all along I was looking for my father. He was gone. I hung around with the thugs, and even though they sold drugs, they showed a young brother love." To me, those lyrics speak to the space of this idea of this young man who wanted to have a relationship with their father. The father was not there for whatever reason, and they sought that identity in the in the gang culture. Even though they were selling drugs, doing the wrong thing, that sense of community that many young men search for, that search for identity, can be found in other cultures and found outside of the home. And so someone can go on and look, and I've heard many folks talk about like, hey, the street life or whatever the case may be, or just other people serving as that role model and that mentor, whatever the case may be, but that person not sort of giving them what they need to hear at the time, or giving them the direction that's going to put them in the best situation to succeed. And so I think that that's one of those things. Again, I circle that back to fathers needing to be fathers. Like that's so important. That's not the responsibility of a mother to be a father. That's not the responsibility there. And I think that that's why it's important for, if someone doesn't have a father in the home, those mentorship programs. And one of my best friends has so I'm from Columbia, South Carolina, Casey, South Carolina, right outside of Columbia, the capital. And he has a program in Columbia, South Carolina called Big Homie, Little Homie. And it's a mentorship group for teens in Casey and West Columbia, South Carolina. And that program is a group of men that come together and support young men who don't have fathers in the home. And so that's why, again, that's so important. I'm just so great friend of mine, he does, and it's changing lives because those young men in many cases don't have someone to look up to. Hence, big homie, little homie. They can reach out and be able to support those young men who are in need of those pieces. But I think those particular spaces are important. And lastly, I'll say with the identity space, being able to have positive experiences can also sort of shape those things. So I'm thinking about the college experience. When you go to college,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Justin. Y'all give us a second. It's storming out here, so I don't know if it's storming over there where he is. See, this why they know it's good. You know what I'm saying? The devil trying to come in and change some things, but we gonna be better than that. Cause he's talking about the big homie, little homie. That is such a good um like organization, a mentorship program for them. You know, like just I know we have like nationwide, we have we have like big brothers, big sisters programs. And so I think that but I know that I used to work at a place that had big brothers, big sisters, and I'm sure he's going to come back on. So um when he has you know, like with the big brother, big sister program, a lot of times when what I saw was there would be a lot of white, like white people that were mentors to the lower socioeconomic class of children that were primarily uh, brown and black community children. And so that wasn't really, it's not that it's not realistic, but you know, just y'all, I told y'all he's back. Look at that. See, the devil is a lie. But I was just kind of talking to them about the big homie, little homie, and how like in comparison to what I know of is like where I used to work, they have big brothers, big sisters. But a lot of times you see the like white people being mentors. So I'm to, you know, to like our African American, black, brown community. But I'm thinking that this big homie, little homie, it kind of helps with more, so you get to have a person that looks like you, that's
right,
that you can identify more with. That's what I was trying to say, but I was like it was taking me a minute. But welcome back.
right. I apologize, Juan. The
No,
internet connection here is poor. I apologize for dipping out of the session. Hopefully I
it,
won't have any more interruptions.
it's all good because it's storming over here, so I didn't know if it was storming over there. And
It looks like it's pretty bad out here and there. I know we're not too far apart from each other.
yeah. So and you know they didn't already said to the devil always busy because you know we talking about this stuff and it's, you know, hate. That's all. so so
So,
but this word getting out. This word getting out, and we're gonna help our black men and you know and our black boys. You know, we're our young men. So yeah, we about this life. So it's okay.
all right.
Um something that did you want to finish talking about the big homie little homie?
Right.
Like
Well, I just again, as you were, I caught the end of what you were sharing in the space of. That's why, and this is my friend is black, and the organization of the big homies are black men, and so it's one of those things where again, sometimes having the person that looks like you being the mentor can make a major difference. And so these are all educated brothers who are doing wonderful things in their communities, and the kids are getting a chance to see that. And so again, sometimes we need as minorities, we need to be able to see others so that can let us know we can do those same sort of things. And so
right.
I applaud all programs that have diversity among the mentors. We need that sort of space.
Absolutely. I'm in the same way. Like anything that can, you know, just increase that positive, you know, because it just takes one, you know, for you to have one positive male, I think it will really make a difference and show you something. Just because if it can take one negative person, you know, what's the opposite? One positive.
Right.
So
Right.
just to show you something different about your life, and so that you can do better than where you are, and
Right.
like help people, and especially our men, to know that your circumstances don't define you. You know, your experiences don't define you. So
Right. So true.
um so I was looking at some statistics before we came on, and if you've been watching for, since what I've started back in March, I don't like statistics. So, but I like the fact that it can. Some of them are shocking, so it's like, ooh. So if you look at statistics as like, wow, it's that many. Just imagine all those stuff that's not reported. Okay, so that's why I don't like statistics, because they're not exactly accurate to me, but they give us a good frame of reference. So, um, so for men, it says there's 5 major mental health problems affecting men. The number one they have is depression, which it says over 6 million men suffer from depression per year. And it says that male depression often goes undiagnosed, and that men are more likely to report fatigue, irritability, loss of interest in work or hobbies, rather than feelings of sadness or worthlessness. I think that's kind of huge, because, you know, we kind of, it's in our field, we call it minimizing. So we minimize really what's going on, because I'm really feeling worthless. I might, I don't know, different things happen. I've never been a man, but I know that I know what it feels like to feel sad and worthless for real, from a female perspective. But I can only imagine for a man, like, maybe you lost your job and you don't feel like you're a provider, and then we can be some rude people, because women can be evil, and we can just emasculate somebody to where they feel so worthless, and like, you ain't even got no job, and and I got to do all this extraness, right? And meanwhile, you're this man, you trying, but it's hard. It took my husband to help me to really understand how difficult it is for a black man today, period. And and so it's just like, because I just know my struggle. I can have empathy for, but I've never been a black man. But we have these talks all the time about how hard it is really for a black man. So do you have any comments about any of that?
Certainly. First, I just want to say the struggle is real for both black men and black women. We have similar challenges that we share, but we also have very different sort of spaces here. And I'll speak for black men struggling with balancing a traditional gender roles, which is of the provider. So for men compared to women, and let's look at black couples here, where you have black women who make more money than black men. The traditional gender role is we are the providers, and so for black men who make less than their black female partners, that can be a hit to an ego, and so one can feel less than, because it's almost a space of, I'm supposed to be a provider, I'm supposed to be the head of my household, but I am unable to do so, and so and that could be challenging and difficult there. I think also, as you alluded to, we're not going to talk about it in terms of I have experiencing depressive symptoms. It's going to more likely come out in, I'm always frustrated about what goes on at work. I'm always frustrated about other things, because we're not going to come out and just share, or even ourselves, we haven't identified it as depression, or identified it as anxiety, whatever the case may be, because we just don't talk about these things. We don't have the language to talk about these issues. We haven't been socialized to do those pieces, along with dealing with all of the other challenges of being a black person, whether it's racism, whether that's individual systemic racism, microaggressions. Microaggressions are those subtle things, that subtle backhanded compliments that people share, that can really be psychologically damaging, and things of that sort. So, for example, a comment such as, if you see somebody black succeeding at something, let's say they're really good in school, making a comment such as, "You're a credit to your race. You're an exceptional black person." The message behind that is all of the rest of the black people aren't very exceptional. They're not doing well in school. They're not doing these particular pieces. So what one meant as a compliment is also a negative towards. It's not a compliment at all. It's a negative towards those who look like you. So dealing with those pressures, dealing with your own. So in a couple, in a relationship, those particular pieces, you both are bringing in your family history. So you yourself may not have dealt with your own family traumas, grief, challenges, whatever those particular pieces are. So you're still trying to manage those things. So you're dealing with those pieces. Let's take
Mm-hmm.
another angle for males who identify as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, dealing with again identity concerns. Can you be gay and also be masculine? Like those particular things. So black men have to kind of navigate a number of these particular areas to be able to be present, to be able to be productive, to be able to do what they need to do. And again, I think the problem is we don't talk about the stories, and things of that sort. I mean, I think we need to have more. We need to take up the offer to be able to have further conversations about those pieces. But to your first example, we're not going to talk about it in oppressive terms. You're going to see it in other ways because
Right.
we don't use that language.
Right. And I know my husband just posted a comment that when you were talking about the microaggressions, he said those can be a trigger. And
Right.
so that is so true because now you're triggered. If you've had enough, I'm going to say and what if it's that day that you decide, you know what, I
Right.
had enough of this and I'm going to say something. Now you turn into the angry black man.
There you go. There you go.
And Lord knows what happens after that. I had a situation where someone was doing that to someone I was working with, and it happened to be a white female to a black male, and they were making comments like this to them, just little slide comments, and he finally was like, "Wait, hold up," he didn't become aggressive to her at all. He said that he just questioned, like, why are you talking to me like that? You know, did I do anything to you? Like, this is offensive to me. He was trying to be assertive in his communication and express his, use his I statements and all that kind of thing. This woman went to the supervisor. They called, this is like on a military installation. So they called the MPs, like they called the military police to come there and arrest this man. And it's sad. That could have been his whole life just gone because she was actually antagonizing him, saying things whether she knew it or not, and he tried to address it and she didn't like it.
Right.
And it's that has happened so much in our history that is ridiculous. So I don't
Right.
know, it just saddens me. But
No, I liken that. Two things came to my mind. I liken that to the bully at school. What ends up happening is the bully keeps on bullying until the person stands up to them, and then everyone's so surprised when the person that's been bullied has had enough and responds, and things of that sort. And I think it also calls to another burden I think we carry is we always have to try to play it cool. We don't have the privilege to being able to have an off day, meaning that I can't raise my voice, but my white male counterparts can do that sort of space in many cases, and it's not a problem or at all. But I can't have a bad day. I can't be off on the day without the fear of I'm gonna harm someone. I
right,
was just giving a presentation recently, and I was highlighting to folks where another thing we have to be mindful of, and I think this is for black men and black women, we have to be conscious of things like what we wear and where we're going to go and things like that. So, like, those are the things when we talk about privilege that folks don't really understand. That I've got to be mindful. So, I wear a do rag, at nighttime to keep my hair in waves and that kind of sort of space. But I wouldn't. I know that if I was to come outside and go certain places with my do rag on, I'm going to be categorized as X, Y, and Z. And that's not something that I'm certainly going to be looked at that way as opposed to being seen as what my profession is, things of that sort. So having to think about those pieces, or when it gets late at night, being a black male and like being mindful of who I'm around, because out of fear or worry that that person is going to somehow be afraid of me. Like those are the kind of things. Again, we it's a burden we carry, and that we have to be mindful of. Things of that sort. I think that that's applicable when we talk about black women with this conversation about black hair. All these discussions about how black women have to wear hair a certain way, and the challenge of why someone just can't be free, have the freedom to wear what they want to wear, and it's all good. We can all just keep moving, as opposed to we got to find problems with how women are choosing to wear their hair. It's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
But those are kinds of the things that we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm gonna go over some more of these statistics real quick. Um, because there's one I really want to talk about. So it says approximately 19.1 million American adults age 18 to 55 or 54 have an anxiety disorder. But out of that, 3,020,000 men have a panic disorder, agoraphobia, or any other phobia. So they just kind of group them into, well, I mean, they are still anxiety disorders, but and for y'all that don't understand, agoraphobia is like not going out, like like being kind of like a homebody, like not having a fear of going out in public. So I'm actually glad I said that, because it kind of links into the other thing that I really wanted to talk about. But in this day and age, why wouldn't you have agoraphobia? Now that it just came to me, like, if we go outside, I might catch COVID, I might get shot. It's all kind of stuff that could be impacting why you have agoraphobia. But and just like you say, being a black person, just being a black person sometimes is is scary,
Right.
because you don't know, you can't interact the same way. Because let's just say you did have your do-rag on, right, and you were just driving down the street real quick before you got to wherever you were going so that you could take it off, but you have it on in your car, and the police ride up on you and pull you over for whatever reason. And then now you're already going, nobody knows that you're Dr. Justin C. Muller. They just like, oh, here go another one. He doing something. They're already going to stereotype you and put you in some type of category.
Right. I think that's so real, and I think when we talk about these stories, these are all these are all opportunities for and things that could be, and you'll notice while I'm being a counselor yourself, these are sessions worth of information that we can process together. Like, what's it like being stopped by law enforcement? Like, that's several sessions worth of discussion and conversation just to have someone, a counselor who's neutral, who's supposed to be non-judgmental and fair-minded and things of that sort, to just listen to what it was like, listen to what that fear was like being stopped for by law enforcement and worried about what was going to happen in that exchange. Like, again, we need to have a space to be able to talk about those things. And to your point about agoraphobia, whenever there's a fear or there's a worry about like being able to escape, that stuff's real, man. And again, when you're a minority, you forced to think about these sorts of things.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. You're forced to. You can't just, you wake up with like life or death situations before you even go outside. Like you have to think about that. And I know recently we've had movies that depicted, like this police brutality encounters and killings, but you know, I like that they show some of them. I can't remember the name of the one, but it was one that was really good to me, as far as how it was like a little girl, her friend got shot in the car. They got pulled over. The police, he was grabbing his hairbrush or something, and they
I think
shot
you
him.
did.
Yes, yes, that was such a, to me, I liked it because it showed really what we have to go through, like telling our kids at young ages about, if the police stop you, this kind of thing, And I didn't grow up like this, so I didn't have these types of, I grew up in Germany, so my husband, he messes with me all the time because I get pulled over and I'm like, "What you pull me over for?" I'm that person. He's like, "Girl, shut up," but is is it's like culturally, I didn't have that, but I had to learn real quick. My parents didn't have to talk to me about that because I already knew I wasn't getting pulled over by no German police, because German police, that kind of stuff was going to happen anyway. Like, like how we talk about police brutality in Germany, you don't want to get pulled over, because that's so you always are safe, so they just said be safe. But these types of things, like, why you got to talk to your kids about that? Like, I don't know. That just I be getting too emotional. So
No, no,
forgive me.
no, it's
Um,
real.
yeah. But I like that you said like that can be sessions. And see, I think for another person that would be maybe not a culturally competent therapist, they may overlook some of these things, which I'm going to skip some of this statistics. Like, I mean, they have one about bipolar. It says 2.3 million Americans are affected by bipolar disorder. An unequal amount of men and women develop the illness. The age of onset for men is between 16 and 25 years old. But this is the one I want to talk about: psychosis and schizophrenia. It says approximately 3.5 million people in the US are diagnosed with schizophrenia, and it's one of the leading causes of disability. 90% of people who are diagnosed with schizophrenia um, by age 30 are men. And now, I don't know um, for you what your experience was, but I worked at a community service board. That's what they call them here in Georgia. It's like the main place where you can go get mental health um, professional help, right? And it's like open to anybody. Like, you don't have to have insurance, because they get government grants and all that. So anyway, I could tell you if I saw 10 clients, 9 of them would be Black, and they were all diagnosed with schizophrenia. Some true, truly because, but it was like drug induced psychosis or situations. But there's so many men. Soon as like they turn 16. But when you think about it, are you really having, if I was not culturally competent and I just listened to you talking about you scared to go outside, the police might kill you, I could easily say that you was paranoid schizophrenic right off the bat.
Right.
And it's like these labels, we get mislabeled because some people don't have the knowledge and understanding of cultural competence to know what we really are going through.
Right. That's so true. You talk about misdiagnosing, and again, if you don't, that's why it's so important to have these type of discussions, and Black, brown, white, whomever needs to be a part of it to be able to hear again these particular stories. Because if one doesn't know, doesn't acknowledge these things to be real, they think someone is quote unquote crazy, or someone is having a hallucination or is delusional, if you will, which are symptoms of schizophrenia. Those particular pieces when it's like, no, this is real. This is a real fear. I'm really worried that this, that, and the other would happen to me. You haven't walked in my shoes and you haven't heard my story, so you don't understand it. You don't get it. Things of that sort. And so it's important that folks understand you got to be able to be culturally competent. You got to have multicultural competence if you're going to serve Black and brown communities.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Um, I just that just bugs me so much, like with the misdiagnosing and
Right.
people getting stuck with stuff, and they over there getting Haldol shots and they don't need to, But I know our time is getting near an end, and we could just go on forever. But
Right.
I want you to, you know, any other things you want to bring up or talk about as far as men and mental health, like for encouraging them to get out and go get some help.
Well, I'll start by just saying the biggest thing is everyone can benefit from having a conversation with someone. That doesn't mean that counseling is perfect, as Juana was just alluding to. You might have a counselor who doesn't get you, which is why I look at counseling as it's an interview, if you will, during that first session. That's your opportunity to figure out, is this somebody that I want to share my story with? And if the answer is no, find you someone else. You're not required to go to a specific person. Sometimes it's not going to be a good fit. I think, secondly, with that, it's true. Just because it's a black counselor does not mean that that person is going to be perfect for you either. It's more or less a space of being able to identify someone who's going to understand, someone who's willing to listen to your story and go and be able to try to assist you. And so I want to share that space. It doesn't mean that you can't handle your business, that you are struggling with something, or you're on the verge of X, Y, and Z. It's nothing wrong with having someone who you can go on and talk about whatever you want to talk to. So for people like myself who are marriage and family therapists, our specialty is working with couples and working with family issues. And so if you got challenges with your girlfriend, if you got challenges with your partner, if you got challenges in your family system, counseling is an opportunity to go on and process those things. Maybe you want individual work. Maybe you want to go in and just kind of have your own counsel. Some couples both have individual counselors, and so they go and process the things that they want to process individually. I encourage you to do those things. If you've experienced loss, grief, any sort of challenging experience through life, go talk to someone. Be willing to do those things. Uh, I'll say also, if you're struggling with that sort of space, the people that you are. Start with safe people that are part of your circle. So if you are married or in a relationship with someone and that person is someone safe, if we're down and you're somebody that I'm tight with, my thought is you should be willing to at least listen to whatever sort of problem or concern that I bring to the forefront. If we're tight, we're friends, we're family, we're related, whatever the case may be, don't be afraid to let other people in. Like being able to talk about it. I got this challenge. And that extends not only just to problems when we talk about relationships. If you got a problem, you have an addiction, a substance use concern, have someone to talk about it. Take an analysis and evaluate yourself where you're at, and then be willing to talk to others about it. Don't go into the battle by yourself. When we go to things ourselves and we can't, we don't go those particular pieces. And I'll say lastly, and I'll speak just for me. My faith is important for me. So being a Christian man, God has been good to me and has helped me and He helps me each and every day with my own challenges. We all have them, and if we're real, we're being honest and things of that sort. And so spirituality has always been something that's important to me, and so I would share that space for anyone else. If you're a spiritual person, to use that as a coping strategy, as well. I found myself in dark dark times, whatever the case may be. We all have them, and God was there for me. And so I always like to share that space as well. On a personal level, that's always been the space for me. And so, again, the biggest thing is don't be afraid to talk to somebody. It's no shame in that sort of space. Again, you don't have to talk to everybody. Find safe people, good people that want to, because everybody isn't should be privy to information because they're not going to know what to do with it. They're not going to care to do with it. Do what's right with it. Find your safe people, and I encourage counseling for anyone and things of that. So please reach out to someone if you find yourself in that space. You're not too young to go, and you're not too old to go, which is I think another space that you want to be mindful
Absolutely. I love that. That main thing about the community. I had wrote it down earlier and I didn't talk to you about it, but yes, that community, because just like you can find a negative community, like how, because that's, I think when you were talking about like with Tupac, and it's like they feel accepted, these people are there, but we do need to create these positive, safe spaces for our people, for our men. And
with.
um I know I watched Queen Sugar. I don't even know if it's still come on. But if anybody watches it, there's a guy on there, Hollywood, and he did that. He created a safe space for the black men in his community to be able to come and talk and hang out, and it wasn't drugging, so if you are someone in your community that can do something like that, create a safe space for others. This morning, uh, the guest that I had during the second week, he Minister Brian, Coach Brian, he talked of this morning in his RESEC Academy. He talked about accountability. And so sometimes I think that this was like right on target. Like I had no idea he was going to talk about accountability, but he talked about the importance of having an accountability partner. But also, like, that person needs to be a safe person that's going to be truthful and honest with you. And so, you talking about this tonight is just so powerful that, I know that that's what God wants for us to do. Um, is to create these accountability safe places for people. My husband said we had a barbershop, but the there was something else I was gonna say, but I can't even remember. But I want you to know that you are more than welcome to come back anytime, any topics that you want. Just you know, you all the way lit. You've lit family. Um, but yeah, just anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. And just let me know because I would love to have you come again and keep talking to us and keep creating these safe spaces. And I just want to thank you for what you do for people and for our community, for teaching counselors and therapists and social workers, all of whoever goes to those classes, how to do this thing the right way. And now I just remembered what it was. um, so I'm a licensed professional counselor, and you are, initially well, you're still always a licensed marriage and
Yeah,
family
I'm a
therapist.
licensed marriage and family therapist. Yes.
So I like that you were talking about that, like that you guys like we're kind of like we can specialize in things, but we get to be kind of like generalists. We get to learn about whatever. You guys are specific to marriages,
Right.
families, like your name says, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
something that I learned from your wife is, well, I learned it in school, but I just, I talked to her, so she was talking to me about how she loves doing genograms and all that. Um, so I want people to understand, like, if you go to a marriage and family therapist, what Justin was talking about is y'all can sit down and go way back and deep in your history and understand why, like look at familial traits and characteristics that help you to learn and understand that generationally this is why you might be susceptible or doing some of the things that you do. um because I didn't really explain what a genogram was, but if you wanted to talk about it, because you guys can do a lot of different types of evaluations and assessments to help people to understand better than like than I'm educated on. So
Right. Well, no, to you, you got it. You hitting it right on the head. So couples counseling gives you a chance to process y'all's relationship cycle, if you will. So all relationships have a cycle, meaning that when, let's say it's a heterosexual relationship, when the woman tries to pursue her husband, let's say she's trying to communicate with him and he withdraws. She tries to communicate with him, he withdraws, and then that might lead to like a source of friction. The lady may be seeking something, the male is withdrawing, they get into some sort of argument, some sort of issue and concern, then the male starts to drop further and continue to withdraw, and that's that kind of cycle. So all couples have a relationship cycle based on whatever the case may be. Family couples counseling gives you a chance to identify what that cycle is, work at what's underneath those triggers in that cycle, and be able to help hopefully establish a new cycle where you all can work together. And so that example that I was just alluding to, where the female is seeking that touch or seeking that comfort from her partner, he can provide that space for her. And then vice versa, if it's a space of where that male is kind of needing some time for themselves, and that female can understand that that's a space he may need time for himself. So you can work through those pieces, because how we are is based on our upbringing, based on what we saw
mhm.
our parents do, what our image of a relationship is, and so we can do those things. As Juana was alluding to, there's this thing we call a genogram. Genogram is kind of like a family tree, but a genogram looks over 3 generations to kind of identify the relationships within that family. And so you'll if you do your own genogram, you will be amazed with how many family traits and types of relationships that you will notice over generations. And again, because we're living in the moment, we don't think about it like, hey, I'm this way because of my mother, and then because of my mother's relationship with her mother. But you can notice oftentimes these sorts of continued patterns that are passed down from generation to generation. So a genogram kind of speaks to that. And the real cool thing about it is if it's in couples therapy, your partner's going to leave. If couples therapy is done in the right way, they're going to leave with a better understanding of who you are. And we're more likely to have empathy and understanding and patience when we can understand where something comes from versus when we see someone come in and we're just thinking they're just acting this particular way, as opposed to saying, I can see why they are having this particular experience. And then we can have empathy and understanding. And then also, cool thing is they can see how why we present the way we present as well. And so our own challenges, they can say that person can see, okay, well, I can be more accommodating and things of that sort. And as Miss Aldridge alluded to, the generational curses that's what we're alluding to. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's exactly spaces, those things that are passed down. Rather that's abuse. Abuse is something that's passed down. It's not just when we talk about health concerns, substance use and addiction. Like all these things can be passed down from generation to generation. Absent fathers can be passed down from generation to generation. These types of things. So family counseling and couples counseling can really delve into all of the components of a family system. So some really, really cool things. So if you and your partner are interested, and again, I like to, I'll leave it this. You don't have to feel like you're on the verge of getting a divorce or breaking up with someone to go to a counselor. I think that's another misconception. Like we got to go to counseling. We're on the verge of breaking up. In some cases, yes, that's why someone comes in, but it doesn't have to be that way. It really could just be, I want to learn more about why we find ourselves in this same sort of cycle all the time. Like I want to learn more about that. This is the person I want to be with. I just want to be better with. I'm not trying to feel like I'm going to get away from this person, and things of that sort. So there's a number of things that can come from.
Absolutely. So that sounds like that's a whole episode.
That's,
Like
that's, a whole nother, that's a whole other episode.
right. So that would be cool, like to have, because I didn't tell y'all. So Christy, his wife, is also a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I bet that's like so incredible living at home like that. Y'all doing the genograms on each other. Come on, baby, let's do this genogram.
Right.
But that would be so awesome. Like maybe that, I'll talk to my husband, see if we can have like a couple session, not session, but like like a show, an episode where it's like us and y'all and we talk about couples. So we'll see what happens with that. He probably like he's signing me up for stuff, but it's just kind of cool. So I want to just thank you. I know it's like a little after 9, but this was so informative, and I was a little passionate, but I just appreciate you. Like I was saying before, I just I just applaud you for everything that you're doing in our community and as in the education realm, because we need you to help us learn how to have those cultural competencies and things like that. So thank you so much for coming on and being lit with us and transparent, educational, and authentic. And that's what the T is. so thank you so much.
Thank you, Juana, for allowing me to come on today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I look forward to future conversation. And thank you for the nice comments and the discussion. I've been following along on that space too. Y'all all cool. So I appreciate the comments.
And I was trying to put it up there, but I got so wrapped up in the in the in our talk, in our discussion. how can people reach you if they would like to? And I'll
Right.
put it up there.
So my email address is the letter J and then my last name Muller, the number one at Lagrange, which is LAGRANGE
So I
and I
just
can yeah, perfect. There it is. I won't say you can Google that space and it'll show up Lagrange College in that space. But yeah, that's it. That's it right there. So absolutely.
But thank you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Don't forget to share this with your family members, friends, whoever it is, because there's information on here that people can use. Also, if you are feeling like, you know, dang, none of my things came up there. I did have like the National Suicide Hotline number. So if you're feeling down, depressed, anything like that, um, please don't hesitate to call. I'm gonna put it. There we go. I got it. It didn't stay when I typed it in the first time. So I'm gonna post that up here as well, and I'll also put it in the somewhere on the page so you can see it. Okay, but that's a oh, I had a misspelling. Sorry, I was typing fast. But it's the National Suicide Hotline. It's 1-800-273-8255. And if you are a veteran, you can press one after that, and it will take you straight into the veteran services. If you go on the website for it, there's chat features, text features, all other kind of ways that you can communicate with them. So please go out in your community. If you feel like you need help, don't hesitate. Okay, people are out there to help you, and the right therapist is there for you. Okay, so again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Muller, for coming on and sharing tea with us. Thank you guys for always being here, always supporting. And like I said, don't forget to share with your family and friends, okay? And I will see y'all. Mm, not gonna see y'all because I am taking a self-care break for the month of July. So, oh, I guess I could say this. So, Justin, you get to hear too. Today was my last day of work. So, so so I am no longer employed by the government. So
Oh,
um so I'm gonna be working on you know, getting the podcast, getting this up and better, and also my private practice, and just taking care of me for right now. So you guys, I just so July, I'll be posting, but we're not gonna have any lives, and we'll be back in August. Okay, so y'all wait for it. It's gonna be a good lineup. All right. So thank y'all. Have a great night. Stay lit. Come back to the page regularly because I'll still be posting, and I probably can't just, we're not gonna have a live, but I'll just be on here. So I will. Yes, Tanisha, private practice. So thank you all again and good night. Stay lit. And like I say every time, I am here. It is now and I am alive. So y'all be blessed.